Well, every week is Fight Week on UFC Fight Pass, and we're not just talking about mixed martial arts. We're also talking about the sweet science of professional boxing. It is back in your life coming up this Friday night, Hollywood Fight Night, back in the Golden State after a brief trek east to Beantown in Boston, and the promoter, kind enough to join me, it is Tom Loeffler. Tom, I guess we got to look backwards before we can look ahead. What a phenomenal night it was in Boston. King Callum Walsh in the main event. Taking Hollywood Fight Nights on the road. I never really thought we would talk about Hollywood Fight Nights in Boston, but we did, and it was pretty magical.
It was great, TJ. You were there, and you saw the energy of the crowd, the reception that Callum Walsh got the first time fighting in Boston, first time fighting on the East Coast. He trains out here with Freddie Roach at the Wildcard Gym, six-time national Irish champion. So we had a lot of Irish fans out there supporting him. And to headline a show like that at the Agganis Arena, where Boston University plays their ice hockey, in a big arena like that with only 5 fights, that's a statement to Callum's marketability and the traction that he's gotten, especially with the support of Dana White and all the celebrities that came out there. Mickey Ward was there, George St. Pierre was there, Matt Serra was there. I mean, you saw all them out there. It was really, really a phenomenal turnout.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL Raiders, Max Crosby was there. Max is like the biggest fight fan ever. Like, he was in Miami last week. Like, he's going where all the fights are. And that's pretty special, I think, especially when you think about, where this promotion is housed on television, UFC Fight Pass. Tom, I came up being a mixed martial arts fan who was very protective of the sport. It was always boxing sort of clash with mixed martial arts. And, there was this movement where you couldn't be a fan of both, it seemed. Like, you had to declare your allegiance to either the sweet science of boxing or, mixed martial arts. And you're really happy we finally got to this point now where both combat sports can not only get along and be, their own entities, but also have a bit of cross promotion. And you've done well with this, getting this Fight Pass deal. Did you ever expect to have your show housed on the world's largest mixed martial arts promotions digital streaming service?
That wasn't the original plan. We had always had our shows on HBO with the Klitschko brothers and with Triple G. And then, I've had a relationship with Dana over the years. And then with the signing of Callum Walsh, who flew up there, flew to Vegas, met with Dana. And he's like, you know what, let's put Callum on UFC Fight Pass. And that's really our goal, is to do cross promotion between the boxing, build the boxing fans on UFC Fight Pass, but also cross promoting to the hardcore UFC fan base. And our commitment to Dana was simple. It's like, we're going to put on exciting fights, compelling fights that the UFC fans are going to want to watch in the ring. If it's a boring boxing match, that's not what the UFC fans are about. And Callum's a big knockout puncher. All the guys we feature and put on are in exciting fights, and that's what our commitment to Dana was.
I don't know if there's a bigger Callum Walsh fan than Dana White, but, also, too, Tom, I think a lot of people might not realize how big of a boxing fan Dana actually is. Like, he's always been into combat sports before, the UFC was what it is today. He was a boxing fan. What is it like for you to see Dana, who's this sort of, preeminent mind when it comes to combat sports, be front row at your shows, just geeking out, having a good time as a fight fan?
Oh, I tell you, it's exciting. I mean, with the very first fight he came to in Los Angeles that we did, he was excited, and he kept every fight he was elbowing me. It's like, this is a great fight. This is a great match. We would love this show. And it was sold out. It was packed, the energy in the crowd. But then when he starts posting and when he starts, really publicizing the events, I mean, it just takes on a whole different dimension to the publicity of our show. I mean, you saw what he did when Callum Walsh broke the record at Peter Welch's gym in Boston, and it was at the punch bag record. And then Dana posted, anyone that wants to come down and can break Callum's record, the first one that can break it will get $5,000. There were about 300 people in line, heavyweights, big guys trying to break Callum's record. No one could do it. And then Callum said, if no one breaks my record, can I get the money? And then sure enough, Dana wound up giving the money. And then, speaking of Max Crosby, I think Dana kidnapped him because he flew with Dana to London for the UFC London show. We followed him a day later after Callum fought in Boston. We went to London and we were at the UFC Fan Experience, and sure enough, Callum broke the record there.
Oh my goodness!
Fan Experience had the punch bag there too, and he wound up breaking the record there. So I think that might be his traveling road show. Whenever he fights, we're gonna have one of those machines there to show what kind of power Callum Walsh has.
And I mean, if Dana's putting out the bounty each and every time, that might be more lucrative for Callum than boxing.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
a lot, coming up for Callum Walsh. We'll talk about him on the backside here, but I want to talk about what's going on this Friday night, Hollywood Fight Nights, in the Commerce Casino in the city of Commerce here in California. You were talking about sort of the business side of things, and as an MMA fan, Tom, for the longest time, it was hard for me to get into boxing because the fights that everyone wanted, they were always prevented from happening due to politics, and more often than not, you would see these mismatches, and they would be disguised as main events, and it's hard to sit as a fan when you have so many, really compelling fights in mixed martial arts. The UFC very rarely has a bad fight, let alone a bad card. And you always have these guys that are, have great records, always stepping up to fight one another. That to me, as an MMA fan, didn't always feel like the case in boxing. But now I'm looking at your fight card coming up on Friday night. You got Omar Trinidad taking on Adon Ochoa, and both of these guys have great records. They're young, they're up and coming. 11-0-1 is Trinidad, 12-2 is Ochoa, and these guys are calling each other out. They're not trying to avoid each other; they're trying to run right into each other.
No, absolutely. Trinidad has been on every one of our UFC Fight Pass shows that we've done, except for the Boston show. But every one here in Los Angeles, he's been on that show, featured as a co-feature. And then Adon Ochoa, who's had a great amateur career. In fact, it was just brought to my attention, he fought Ryan Garcia in the amateurs up in Oxnard. There was a PAL tournament up there, but he's local. They both have big fan bases. Trinidad, he's from Boyle Heights, and Ochoa is from Compton. So they have big fan bases. It's a local rivalry. Ochoa called out Trinidad because he saw the success that Trinidad was having on Fight Pass and on our shows, and that's really what boxing's all about. And you hit it on the head. Dana said that a lot of boxing people had approached him over the years. He just never really had that trust in someone to put on boxing on his brand. And what he's done, the genius promoter that Dana is like, any UFC show, whether it was the one in London, whether it was the one just last weekend in Miami, the big ones in Vegas, whatever it is, the fans know they're going to get a great night of entertainment. And the thing that really impresses me, what Dana's done, is that you have the UFC fans showing up from the very beginning of the show, because there's so many great undercard fights on those UFC shows. And in boxing, unfortunately, there's two problems. One is, like you said, that the big fights keep getting pushed down the road, and there's one reason or another reason, or a different promoter doesn't want to make the fight, whatever it is. And then, most of the times in the big shows in Vegas, it's like the arena will be empty, and then as soon as it's a co-feature, the main event, then it'll be full. And we're trying to change that. When you come to a Hollywood Fight Night show, you're going to have 6 great TV fights, whether you tune in on UFC Fight Pass or if you're live. We're doing our show here April 14th at the Commerce Casino. This will be our first time at Commerce Casino. The doors open at 6 o'clock. First fight's at 7 o'clock. And the UFC Fight Pass starts at 8 o'clock. That's all Pacific time. So that's our commitment, again, to building boxing on UFC Fight Pass. And we can't lay an egg. We got the microscope on us. Every fight's going to be compelling. And, we just look forward to putting on quality competitive fights.
Yeah, I think the athletes themselves realize what sort of platform they're on, and they want to go out there and put on a show, and they do just that, which is why I think you have Ochoa chasing down Trinidad and trying to get in on that shine, if you will, steal the shine, and I can't wait to see it. Obviously, it's in town here. Tickets are hard to come by, though, I believe, right? I mean, with 2 local guys, Fight Pass might be the destination for anybody that doesn't have a ticket already to see this.
The tickets have sold fast. There are a few left. You have to go to our website, 360promotions.us, or you can get some at the door, although most of the good tickets are already sold. So whatever you can get, make sure you get them early. We also have a special feature, TJ, someone that you're very familiar with, Anderson Silva, who just got inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, or voted into the Hall of Fame. His son, Gabriel Silva, is making his pro boxing debut. He's I believe he's 9-1 as a kickboxer, and so this will be his first time in the boxing ring. And it's actually on. We couldn't have planned it better. Actually, it's on Anderson Silva's birthday,
Oh,
Friday,
wow.
April 14th. So Anderson's going to be there. He's going to be in the corner. We'll be celebrating his birthday, and we're all going to see how Gabe Silva does in the boxing ring.
Yeah, I mean, if he's a tenth of what his father was inside the octagon, we're in store for something pretty special. And that's another thing too, and we've seen this with Callum, and I appreciate this even to the other live event partners on UFC Fight Pass when it comes to mixed martial arts, is the ability as a fight fan to sit and watch these athletes be built, because we live in a time now where we have so much accessibility to these shows via streaming services and things like that. But you can literally, Fight Pass is a one-stop shop to see these athletes from the grassroots of their fighting careers. And for Gabriel Silva, I mean, this is the first boxing fight of his professional career. Like, I mean, that's pretty cool. Like, obviously you're a promoter, you're putting on fights with athletes from all over the world, but to know that Anderson Silva's son is going to be fighting on your show and Anderson's going to be there, like, you got to be pretty excited about that.
Absolutely. And that's really the genius of getting this deal with UFC Fight Pass, is we can build athletes, rising stars. Callum Walsh was 1-0 when he headlined his first UFC Fight Pass show. And, when I have every expectation of him becoming world champion. I mean, you have Freddie Roach as a trainer. You have Dana White as your supporter, for sure. He already did a Hollerhead sponsorship deal with Callum. And then, me putting the pieces together on the boxing side, I expect him to become a world champion. So the fans can go back and say, wow, okay, I saw Callum's fight when he only had one fight on UFC Fight Pass. And the same thing, just like you said with Gabe Silva, you can go back and you can go to the archives and watch some of their early fights. And this is a perfect platform to build some of these young, very talented fighters. We have another very talented fighter, Umar Jambekov. He's a 9-time Austrian national champion. He's 3-0 right now. And he's another one to keep an eye out. I've kind of been known, with the Klitschko's, with Triple G, with Chocolatito, kind of specializing in international stars, building them in the boxing, on the boxing side. And I think Umar, Callum, Sergey Boachuk, they've all been featured on UFC Fight Pass. And I think, you'll see definitely some world champions coming out of this platform.
Yeah, it's exciting to see the growth of not only, like we said in our main event, a couple of local guys, but that continued growth from athletes all over the world. Very exciting. And, we've already said his name a few times, the Irish superstar sensation, Callum Walsh, coming off that big win in Boston. I mean, I think Dana and company might kill me if I don't ask what's next for Callum Walsh here. When can we expect to see the King back inside the ring?
Well, for all the live fans, he's going to be there on Friday. He's going to be at Commerce Casino. We look at it as like a, fraternity of building, there, he's going to be there supporting the show. So he's very marketable, very charismatic. He'll be there taking photos with fans. So he'll be at the show, but we have him slated for the June 9th show on UFC Fight Pass. That's a Friday night, and that's also going to be at the Commerce Casino. So if you want to see Callum Walsh back in the ring, it'll be June 9th, live on UFC Fight Pass and at the Commerce Casino as well. Any
idea on a possible opponent for Callum?
We're working on the opponents. He's at the point now. He's 6-0, 5 knockouts. He just had his first 10-round headline fight in Boston, and so we're definitely stepping up the level of competition. He looks so good. Every time we raise the bar for him, he looks so good that we really got to step him up to a point where he's going to start. You're going to see him starting in the top 10 pretty soon.
That's exciting business. King Callum Walsh, always a good watch, and as is Hollywood Fight Nights. Again, it's coming up this Friday night live on UFC Fight Pass. 8 p.m. Pacific time is when it starts. It's headlined by Omar Trinidad and Adana Choa. And then, as we mentioned, some other stars to keep your eye on. The very young, new boxer Gabriel Silva, the son of Anderson Silva, making his debut. Umar Chembekov, 9-time Austrian champion. By the way, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to say that repeatedly. Chembekov, like, man, Tom, these guys, they make it hard on announcers like me.
Yeah, but they're, as long as they display their skills in the ring, it'll start rolling off your tongue. We have really high hopes. He also trains at Wildcard Boxing. He trains with Marvin Smodio, who's pretty much Freddie's right-hand man down there. But we have really high hopes for Umar as well.
Awesome. Well, we will be locked and loaded Friday night live on UFC Fight Pass. Tom Loeffler, appreciate your time. Best of luck with this card, and I can't wait to see more boxing action on Fight Pass as we move along through 2023.
Thank you, TJ. Appreciate the time, and we'll definitely see you calling the fights on Friday night.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Tom.